We've been reporting all week on Donald Trump playing chicken with the federal courts, culminating with Donald Trump's ordering the Supreme Court Chief Justice John Roberts to, quote, stop nationwide injunctions now before it's too late, end quote. Today, in a hearing to determine whether the Trump administration defied a federal court order by deporting Venezuelan migrants last weekend, Judge Boasberg took DOJ lawyers to task for, quote, intemperate and disrespectful language, end quote. He continued, quote, I often tell my clerks before they go out in the world to practice law that the most valuable treasure they possess is their credibility. And I would just ask you to make sure that your team retains that lesson, end quote. Here's Donald Trump today.
Mr. President, do you think you have the authority, the power to round up people, deport them, and then you're under no obligation to a court to show the evidence against them?
Well, that's what the law says.
That's what the law says. But today, Trump's Justice Department lawyers admitted that, yes, in America, all people, even non-citizens, all people in America have rights to due process. Judge Boasberg ended the hearing without ruling on whether he would extend his temporary restraining order. The judge is also considering whether to issue a formal finding that the Trump administration violated that order. Joining us now is Rhode Island Senator Sheldon Whitehouse, a member of the Senate Judiciary Committee. Senator, good to speak to you again in such short order. Let's just be clear about this. The Trump administration and the White House are making this seem like an overreaching, I think they called him a lunatic liberal judge, is trying to control immigration policy in America, and that is not his responsibility. That's not at all what's happening here. This is a question about A, due process, and B, whether a judicial order was or was not followed by the Trump administration.
Well, let's start with the radical lunatic left-wing judge who was appointed by President Bush. That's how he originally got onto the court as a district court judge. I think what you're seeing here is the weak link in the chain mail of lies around Donald Trump is lawyers having to appear in court. And it's not just their credibility, it's actually their bar license that is at stake. And in this case, in the case about the EPA fund they're trying to seize, in the original Freeze case, in the case up in Boston about the deportation, what you're seeing over and over again are judges starting to call out misrepresentations by Trump lawyers. And that is a really powerful point to drive home, because if you go into court and lie for Trump and it costs you your ticket to practice law, that's going to put a real brake on some of the lies that are being told in court on behalf of Trump. And so we're now at the point in the process where the lies have been said and the courts are starting to drill down to get the facts.
Yep.
And, I think this actually changes the nature of the tenor of these Trump lawsuits in courtrooms as lawyers go in realizing, oh, crap, if I lie to this federal judge, if I'm not honest and honorable with the other side, I've got a real problem with my career.
Because this Venezuelan deportation case is not complicated. The questions that the judge, Boasberg, is asking, there are 5 questions. They're super specific. If I asked you about your travels, you'd be able to answer those questions yourself by looking at your phone. These are not specific. The lawyers are claiming that they didn't really understand that the judge's order was an order because it wasn't a written order until later. Most prosecutors I've spoken to have said, I think the nice way to describe this is BS.
Yeah, it's utter BS. And frankly, Boasberg is actually showing quite considerable restraint in dealing with sort of repeated contumacy by these lawyers. But like any good judge, he's building the case so that he has the facts in front of him and can make an ironclad decision about what should be done with lawyers who very likely have misrepresented facts to him, to the court.
You make anything out of this Supreme Court warning to Justice Roberts that stop nationwide injunctions before it's too late? That's what Donald Trump said, before it's too late. You have any clue as to what that's supposed to mean?
You know, I think that the key thing for me here, anyway, is Justice Roberts making a very unusual, rare statement, saying that when you disagree with the judge, you don't threaten them, you don't impeach them, you appeal them. And I think that's a strong sign that at the top of the judiciary system, he is getting enormous amounts of feedback from judges across the country saying, hey, this is out of control. You're going to have to step in and do something. You're the Chief Justice. So I view Roberts' comment as being an expression of kind of solidarity from across the country and probably to a significant degree outrage across the country from federal judges who really don't like being lied to and conned.
Yeah.
You just don't do that with federal judges.
Yeah, the better do something or else might be a warning that's going the other way from the courts to the president to say, you better stop the nonsense or else. Senator, good to see you as always. Thank you for joining us. Senator Sheldon Whitehouse.